Hello everyone and welcome to another video. How's everyone doing and how was your weekend? Sorry for the late upload, but stuff happens in real life. And here we are. For today's video, I'm actually happy about the recent changes made by Riot. Patch 14.19 had some really good changes. And I'm not talking about nerfing every item in the game, which is a great thing for bruisers in general, because we all have, on average, high base damage in our abilities. As you know by now, we don't care much about runes, since Volibear isn't heavily reliant on them in this game. So, we'll celebrate the patch with a little twist, and we'll use this game as proof that some junglers are actually struggling in the early game. And of course, we're talking about yours truly, up against Shaco. In this game, against all odds, this Shaco did something clever. We invaded his jungle. Or rather, my team invaded his jungle. He was forced to start with Q, and as smart as he is, and I give him props for that, he didn't clear his camps at all. He just waited for me at my red buff, and we died as a level 1 jungler. We had now reached our first milestone in this game, utter uselessness. At this stage of the game, we symbolize the true meaning of being useless. In situations like this, it's where you need to throw your problems at your allies. So I typed to Karma, "Hey man, come help. I need your help. If you don't, we'll lose, and if you don't come, I'll make sure we lose the game." And yeah, Karma came, but it was worse than before. The reason I posted this specific game is that Riot decided to add alarm systems in the new patch, so that if your jungler is invaded, everyone is alerted until a certain point in the game, which is actually really good. The reason for that is simple. Most people are middle-aged players who suffer from tunnel vision and lack concentration, especially after a long day at work and a lot of screaming from their bosses. This alarm system compensates for that lack of focus. So, as useless as we are, we do what we can. I focused on farming, only clearing the camps that Shaco left for me. And thankfully, this guy was more focused on killing us than counter-jungling. Since we're a veteran Volibear player, I knew that I could solo the Drake at level 3, which is somewhat rare. Not all junglers can do that, though recently more can with the changes to jungle items. But yeah, if you can solo Drake at level 3, it's a sign that your champion is a viable jungler. We managed to secure a Chemtech Drake, which is one of the best Drakes in the game. I think if the enemy team gets every Drake except Hextech and Chemtech, it's fine. Those are the only two that give real utility. With that, we were raised from the dead and became viable in the game again. My stupid beloved team are happy because we got a valuable objective, even though we were helpless since the start. But the issue is that I got a weak hand in this game. My team is useless. Not all of them, of course. Ezreal seems to be in a good mood, possibly unemployed, which explains why he's so happy playing this game. Top lane was delusional, mid lane was overly aggressive, and our support was brain dead. This is the status of the current game. As you can see, we went from being supremely useless to becoming the most valuable player in the game. And this happened because we were patient, and our allies were somewhat useful, even though they suffer from a variety of severe conditions and clearly need medical assistance. What followed from here until the end of the game was a series of unfortunate events, for us and the enemy team, but mostly for the enemy team. And since, by nature, as a Volibear player, we win against Shaco 1 versus 1 if we are even the best Shaco players will be at a disadvantage, because if you bite Shaco at the start of the fight, the mark stays on the real one. It's easy to kill him. You don't need to overthink it, just ignore the clone. Plus, with the slows from your abilities, you've got around 5 to 6 seconds to finish him off, which is more than enough if you're building as a bruiser. But if you're behind, take it from me. You can't win against anyone until you reach your 10th power spike, which is usually around level 14 or 16. That's when you can start taking down squishy targets, even if you're behind, because Volibear has high base stats at that point. Now you might be wondering, how do we win this game against their composition? They have my beloved grumpy brother, Ornn, who will keep giving them more value as the game progresses. Ornn essentially buys them new items for free. They also have Twisted Fate, who can split push, Shaco for sneaky assassinations, Draven, who can literally two-shot me, and Nautilus, who can lock me down. I think Nautilus, similar to Leona and Janna, is a hard counter for engaged champions like Volibear. So, the plan is to play carefully and wreak havoc in the game. There's only one way I know how to do that: by playing around aggressive players. If you know how to play off of your aggressive carries, you can create a lot of chaos. For example, if I show up in mid lane and land just one ability, she will engage even though the play looks bad. But for Fiora though, I think it's better to leave her alone. That player performs much better as a solo split pusher. As for Karma, I can't rely on him at all. I think he's suffering from schizophrenia or something. Sometimes he makes good plays, but other times, it's like his brain shuts off, maybe trying to multitask while playing. Regarding Ezreal? Based on my experience, Ezreal players are the older, smolder version. They never commit. They just keep poking. And by the time you engage, absorb all the crowd control and damage, they just throw one Q at the enemy. It's like spitting on your grave, if you ask me. Since this is the game before the release of the new patch, we're still playing with the old runes and items, which was a great combination. Stridebreaker and Hullbreaker give you everything except ability haste. But now that ability haste has been nerfed, we need to find a new build. So in future videos I'll be experimenting again. It seems like every time I find something good, it doesn't last. The moment I say, oh, this build is great, I think I'll reach master with it, they nerf it into the ground. Still, this game proves that despite all the nerfs to items, movement speed, and damage, it all comes down to how well you know your champion. If we were all playing without items, could you still carry the game? This reinforces the idea that you should never give up, because you never know when a meteor might hit the power station of the enemy team or something unexpected happens. There's always a chance. It's never 0%, so keep playing. And don't say, oh guys, let's forfeit, let's start a new one. That's a loser mentality. Even if you win because someone disconnected, it still counts as a win. So yeah, this patch is a great one, even though it hits our build hard. But since it's everyone's problem, we'll endure. We'll wait for the right moment. What usually happens is that everyone loses their way, goes back to spamming what was broken before, and when they do that, the meta abusers will start searching for counter-meta picks. Meanwhile, we, the consistent point in all these changes, will adapt. This brings us to the question: can someone who's never been the best in class still end up on top at the end of the year? The answer is yes. If you consistently place 3rd, 4th, or 5th by the end, your average score will surpass those who are only good in one subject, whether it's math, literature, or music. So consistency always wins. We'll find a viable build and start with the breaker build as our cornerstone, switching it up until we find the right balance. Once we do, we'll perfect it. And then, climbing will happen naturally, as a consequence, not as a goal. Our goal is to enjoy the game, and climbing is just the result of that. At this instance, we've acquired the Baron buff, and we're free to do what we want. Right now, we don't need to group, we just need to catch people off guard. As you can see in this game, it was very hard to kill me, even against multiple targets. And that's because we've got lots of HP with this build. We managed to play around crucial goals and objectives, but the enemy team is still in the game. We're not winning by a lot of gold, we're just barely hanging in there, even though the score says otherwise. For example, if Shaco decides to split push or catch our top player, it could be very easy for them. But since the tunnel vision affects everyone, whether it's our allies or the enemy, Shaco is too focused on killing us or our carries. If I were in his shoes, I would be playing differently. Of course, I could also split push, but Fiora is already doing that. We need to create a pressure point either mid or on the other side of the map so that Fiora doesn't have to think. She just needs to do one thing, and that's to push. Push the wave, take towers, take inhibitors, and don't die. We'll take care of the rest, and that's easy for us because, first, we have the blue pet in the jungle, which means we're super fast when moving through the jungle. Second, in every fight, we've been lucky enough to have all our abilities up, making me very hard to catch. Even if I'm running, I'm not running away. I'm running to fight in a better position, so the enemy doesn't know whether to commit or back off. At this stage, you'll see that I'm investing too much in keeping the enemy team at bay so they don't bother Fiora, and luckily they never managed to kill Ezreal because, as I said, he's not investing anything in these team fights. So it was all between me and Katarina. I think that sums up this game, from a complete disaster at the start, to an enjoyable mid-game, and finally, to a fun late game. And with this, my dear viewers, our time together has reached its end. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, leave me a comment about your thoughts, and drop a like while you are at it. Also, I hope I'm not asking too much, but please check that notification bell, because most of you guys either don't know about it or don't care about this trivial stuff, since it would be very helpful for the channel. As always, until the next video, take care everyone, and peace.